Action.
This is
Lab 11.
Okay, so in genetics, when individuals inherit traits, they inherit a dominant and a recessive trait. So parents, scratch that. So they inherit a dominant and a recessive trait. A dominant trait is represented by an uppercase letter, and a recessive trait is represented by a lowercase letter. So homozygous dominant is if the one parent were to pass down, one parent has a double A, big A, and they pass down one of the big A's mixed with the other parent to the child. And then homozygous recessive is little a, and then heterozygous dominant is big A, little a, and then heterozygous recessive does not exist.
Not a Mandy.
Alright, so with the traits being expressed, there's codominance, which is when two non-identical alleles are both fully expressed. An example of this would be an ABO blood type. And then incomplete dominance would be when one allele is not fully dominant over the other, and so there's the heterozygous has a unique phenotype. It's more of a mixture. An example of this is flower color, where homozygous dominant is red, homozygous recessive is white, and heterozygous is pink.
Awesome. So today we talked about autosomal inheritance. So autosomal is when the gene is expressed in both male and females. So some autosomal disorders would be cystic fibrosis. So it's a recessive disorder, and it's a carrier of an individual who appears to be normal, but it is carried by a recessive gene. And so if like a man and a woman were both heterozygous, then their child would have a 25% chance of showing cystic fibrosis.
So, and then we applied all these concepts to a little lab data collection where we looked at autosomal human traits. And so everyone in the class filled out a document which was like, we looked at hairline, whether like widow's peak or straight hairline, looked at earlobes, hair on the back of the hands, skin pigmentation as in like freckles or no freckles, and then thumb hyperextension, bent little finger, and interlacing the fingers, whether like right goes on top, right thumb on top, left thumb on top. And each one has a specific dominant. For example, hairline dominant is widow's peak, whereas the recessive allele would be code for a straight hairline. And when you look at Punnett squares, it's clear that dominant alleles overpower recessive alleles, meaning that the dominant is more likely to occur because you could have
Higher percentage.
Yes, thank you, Elisha. However, sometimes the dominant is not always the majority, and this is an example in hairline. So the dominant was widow's peak, but it was not the majority. It was actually the minority. And so the recessive actually have more cases with a 62%, which is quite shocking considering it is a recessive gene. But that's how it is, genetics. Thank you. Cut.